Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a great guest on who is a entrepreneur and a leader of very dynamic businesses, ones that you probably are very familiar with seeing the name and the marketing, the branding, which I'm very excited to have Brian Scudamore on because, I mean, when you can build a brand that people recognize, that is a phenomenal thing. So I'm excited to have Brian on. So welcome to the show, Brian.
Hey, Terrell, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we jump into the details of your business and the brands that you've built, can you tell us a little bit about what was your background before, starting these companies and becoming the leader of these companies?
Of course, I was a high school student. My background was I was studying in school. I didn't finish grade 12. I was one course short of graduating. I wasn't the best student in the world. I was very ADD, had trouble focusing, had trouble staying in school. And with one course short, I talked my way into college. I was in a McDonald's drive-through of all places. I saw a beat up old pickup truck with plywood side panels built up on the box, and it said Mark's Hauling on the side. And I thought, hey, there's my way to pay for college. I bought a truck, started hauling junk within a week. The company was called the Rubbish Boys at the time. And off I went to create a business. Now, ironically, what taught me about business and I was learning running my own business, but ironically, I was learning more about business running one versus studying in school. And I made the tough decision to drop out. I sat down with my father, who's a liver transplant surgeon, and told him I had some good news. I was quitting school to build a business full time. And here we are today.
Now, as a liver transplant surgeon, tells me he did a lot of schooling. So, how did that? How was the emotional tone of that conversation?
Yeah, well, I think that's why I presented it as good news. I said, I've got some good news. And I was excited about my decision, even if my father wasn't. He's done more schooling than anyone I've ever met. But I said, hey, listen, Dad, school will always be there if I want to go back. My business opportunity might not be here forever. And I'm going to strike while the iron's hot. I'm going to run with this business. And here we are today, 2,000 plus trucks, three different companies, 1-800 Got Junk, Wow One Day Painting, and Shack Shine, all under the O2E Brands umbrella, which stands for ordinary to exceptional. And my belief is to take ordinary people, ordinary businesses, and do the exceptional. And we're having fun with everything we do. And looking back, I don't regret leaving school. I probably regret that I didn't leave a little bit sooner.
Mhm. Gotcha. So what was that journey like I said, in building out a brand? Like I said, you have over 2,000 trucks now. What was it like, in kind of those early days of just building out that brand where not that many people knew you, but you knew you needed to get the name and the brand out there?
Yeah, it took a lot of hard work. People say these overnight success stories sure take a long time. This has been 32 years of me building 1-800 Got Junk and our other brands. The last two brands that we added, Wow One Day, we added about 10 years ago. We're at 50 franchise owners across North America. At some point, we'll be several hundred. So we're growing. We're having a good time with that business. I think Shack Shine was a little bit younger. It's the baby in the family. It's more like 3 years in business, but it's tough building a brand. I think the one part that people don't realize is that these things take longer than you'd ever expect. It took me 8 years to get 1-800 Got Junk to 1 million in sales. Yet the flywheel, the momentum that's propelling now, is gotten to the point where we'll do 1 million on a given day in revenue. But it took me 8 years to get to that first million. So it's time, it's momentum, it's focus. It's working hard to find the right people, treat them right. There's a lot involved in building a business. And something I'm proud of that I love is that we've taken all our learning and we've put it into a bit of a recipe. We've said, listen, if someone wants to start a business, one option is a franchise. Rather than go out and create the business from scratch like Brian did, why not take the business model and the recipe, follow the systems to a T, do what the system lays out as best practices, and you'll be successful. So it's a different way of doing business. Some people like to start things from scratch, like myself. Some people want to say, okay, show me how to do this step by step, and they want to fast track their way to success.
Mhm. Now, at what point in your journey did you guys start to look at it from the franchise angle, or were you originally, or was that the original idea?
Yeah, I think the original idea was I was always inspired by McDonald's. I always believed that they had a really cool business model of taking the McDonald's brothers business and systematizing it, cookie cuttering that business into cities throughout the United States and eventually the world. And I wanted to be something similar. I wanted us to take our business practices and say, hey, we can take someone who's ordinary, teach them how to be a great entrepreneur and how to build a business. And when I see franchise partners like Paul Guy in Toronto, who's our first 1-800-GOT-JUNK franchise owner, he started and took the simple recipe and said, I'm going to put a lot of work into this and I'm going to focus on getting results. Today, he's got a $60 million empire. He's got a franchise that's in Toronto where he started, but he's also got Nashville, Tennessee. He's got Melbourne, Australia. He's got Manhattan, New York. He's got all these great businesses that he's added on to his family of brands and said, hey, if I can make 1-800-GOT-JUNK work in one market, why not find great people and start up in other markets? So it's taken time, but again, we're proud of our success and I love watching people grow. I love nothing more than seeing a leader take our business model and really rise from the trenches and say, okay, I understand leadership, how to find great people, how to market the business, and they grow something special.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I guess, what was it like for you? I mean, that first time when you launched like you say, the first franchise, was there a little bit of a emotional of taking that step back and really letting them run their business, or how was that process?
Yeah, it was something that certainly struck an emotional chord where I was excited to bring someone else into the business and say, okay, now we get to see what happens in another market, Toronto. But I was nervous at the same time because what if Paul didn't succeed? He did $1 million in his first full calendar year in revenue. It took me 8 years to get there, as I mentioned. He did it a lot faster, which proved to me that we had a recipe that was going to work. We had a franchise partner that got how to make that recipe a success and put a lot of sweat equity into the business. So I felt good with our first franchise partner and the decision. And then that's when we tried to scale or started to scale what Paul had showed us would work. Let's go into other markets. Let's go into the United States. Let's go into Australia. And here we are today, 3 countries with 3 brands, and it's magical.
Awesome. I mean, that is an amazing success. I mean, congratulations for keeping that up. And when people are interested in becoming a franchise partner, how do they get in touch with, with the company, with the brand, if they're interested in becoming a franchise partner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they go to our website. So people usually start with our first brand and they go to 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com. They go to the start a franchise section and they learn a little bit more about our offerings. Now, the thing that's made us successful is being very, very selective in who we bring into the family. I believe anybody can be an entrepreneur if they've got that wish and dream, but it does take following the system. It does take the leadership, the work ethic. There's so many things involved that someone has to get right. So we're very careful in selecting people to make sure they've got what it takes, because if they're not successful, nor are we. This is a partnership. We call our franchise owners franchise partners because we depend on each other to both make this thing a smashing success.
Gotcha. Now, for when a person is interested in becoming a franchisor or franchise partner, how long is that process for them, like to go from interest to up and running?
Yeah, I think 8 weeks is sort of the number. I think during a pandemic, it's made things a little bit more challenging, as we've all learned, that trying to train people virtually is a little more challenging than, we can't cross borders right now. Here, my head office is in Canada. I can't go hop on a plane and come down and see our franchise owners. And we found different ways to do things. So we've got our franchise partners out there supporting new franchise owners that come into place. But this whole bigger and better philosophy that we have, building something bigger than any one of us would have chosen to build alone, that I think is where the magic happens. The best support a franchise owner can get is from their peers. They understand the business. They were in their shoes before them, and there's been lots of learning, and they've had people help them along the way. So they want to give back. And so it in itself has been an exciting formula, is watching this peer coaching and peer support. And then at the head office, we get to focus on, we run a sales center, a call center to do all the booking and dispatch for our franchise owners across brands so that they can get out there and focus on pounding the pavement, driving sales, building teams. We can do a lot of the marketing for them. We do the sales center side. And it's a model that has led us to this recipe, I guess, of allowing franchise partners to scale their business much more quickly than if they were to go at it alone.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, before we wrap up the interview, one of the questions that I like to ask every guest that comes on is, when you think about, your journey of where you've been, and you think about, the lessons learned, and also when you think about where you're taking the company, what's two lessons that you've learned that you think would be very impactful for other business owners?
Well, two that have worked well for me to keep in mind and stories I share constantly are: find the right people and treat them right. A business is a company of men and women building something together. And if you're not very selective and careful on who you bring into your organization, everything can fall apart. In 1994, 5 years into my business, I had to let go my entire team of 11. I found the wrong people. I wasn't leading them and supporting them in the way they needed. And I had to start again. But I learned that lesson: find the right people and treat them right. Number two is having a vision, or what I call a painted picture. Have a vision of what the future looks like for you and your people, for your brand. Just imagine what it could be. One of the moments I imagined in my life from my business was meeting Oprah Winfrey and us getting highlighted or presented on her show. And it was a massive boost in our business, as you can imagine. But it's dream the impossible and just put it in writing. And one day, you never know, those things might just become possible. So a vision, a painted picture, where are you going? If any of your audience wants to Google and go on to any of my social media, send me a note saying, could I see your painted picture, please? And I'm happy to send you ours and an article I wrote on creating vision that might help you create one of your own.
Gotcha. And again, what's your website and how can people find you on social media?
Yeah, I recommend they go to 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com. You'll see at the very bottom of that page all our other brands: Wow One Day Painting, Shack Shine. I'm all over social media: LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever your choice is, YouTube. I'm out there. I love sharing what's worked. I love talking about our business and our people, and trying to give back to other entrepreneurs who want to create great businesses.
Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom and coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you.
Awesome. Thanks, Terrell. Keep up your great work and all the interviews you're doing. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.